What's up everyone? So today we're going to do a tutorial on the two-hand 10 to 2 or two-hand 300, swing 300, mace 300. It has a variety of names. We're really going to do the 300 version. The difference between a 10 to 2 and 300, they're all identical except for the 10 to 2 is supposed to land at the 10 and at the 2 of the hands of a clock that has hands. Okay, which is 240 degrees, which is not 300, right? Most people, when they swing, at least that I've analyzed, they swing at about 270. But again, if you want to do the full 300, you would go above the shoulder. Below the shoulder is about 240. At the shoulder is about 270, and above the shoulder is about 300 degrees. So that's what we're going to do. Let's look at it so we see what the heck I'm talking about with all this stuff. And I'm going to be teaching the 300 because I think it's a more complete movement. You get to pull down more, right? You come all the way down real nice, and you land at basically like an 11 and a 1 on if they were hands on a clock, okay? So let's look at some key things about this. One thing I want to say is I do not like, I'm going to show it during this, demonstration, but I do not like when people train and they stop, and then they stop. First of all, this is radial deviation. You can see how small a range of motion that is. So what it does is it puts a lot of pressure on your wrist if you're holding it in that position, right? Because you have to realize something. The benefit and the thing we need to be cautious about with levered implements is the torque, okay? So when I'm here, if you go to the end of this mace, there is torque coming straight down, trying to pull this mace down, right? So torquing your wrist is what it's going to wind up doing. So you want to be careful of that. So even when we're learning it, just get a real light weight, control it, but don't stop. I don't want to see people stopping at these positions. I mean, can I do it? Yeah, this weight's light enough where I can do it, and I've got my bottom hand giving a little pressure like a lever to make sure that it doesn't torque my wrist. But again, not a good way to learn it. Okay. So what else? We're moving, some of the stuff is similar to what we saw with the 360, okay? So when we dive at about the same angles, right? But really what we're doing is we're stopping here and then just lifting it back through, right? Threading the head or the hands over the head, really, because you're not pushing the head through the hands, right? But watch, there, look, that deep elbow, the elbow's high and the hands deep behind the head, maybe at the neck level, right? So that's what we got, that little pendulum back there. That's going to help us, okay? Also, we're going to rotate the body a little bit. This actually eases up pressure on the wrist, because if I go here and here, I mean, I can still do that. But when I turn, first of all, I'm using body unity. I'm using a little bit of body weight to rotate with it, okay? It's more of a torso rotation, a little bit in the hips, you can see, right? But my feet are pretty well planted. Now, can I go up on my feet? Yeah, I can still do that just like I do with, the Mace 360, right? I can do that, that's fine. So really whatever you're comfortable with, but I do want to see rotation in there. The other thing is, instead of pulling to your opposite hip, which is not a bad way to think about it, you're really going to be pulling to your center, but as you rotate, your center is where your hip was. So watch. So as I rotate, so my center, watch, if I turn back to center, look what my hands are. Right over my umbilicus, right? My little belly button. So we go here, boom. Right, so let me just do it in real time. Right, here, here, here. All right. I come to center, but I'm rotating off. So it looks like I'm at this hip, but realistically, if you turn me straight, look, I'm in my center. So you're really pulling down to center. Make sure you pull down enough. We don't want to do shorties like we talked about, right? With the, see all the way up here? We don't want these all the way up here. Thinking we can control it, because the closer we are to our body, we feel more stable, but you're not. You're much more stable here. The torque is much greater here, right? Because that lever gets higher. We pull that lever down, and now there's still torque that's going to pull it because of the angle, but you're able to control it more, right? So you've got a little bit better body unity with that. So that is your 10 to 2 or 300. Again, recall it 10 to 2. Technically, it's 240 degrees if you're actually doing a 10 to 2. Most people, like I said, land a little bit higher than that as far as the angle. It's usually about 270. Most people land that. but if you can land at 300, that's pretty good as well. Any of those are really fine. I don't like the short ones just because, like I might have mentioned earlier, it just makes you rush the movement, right? And it makes sloppy techniques. So I think that's all I wanted to share with you all. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Now here's another thing. One last thing, actually. You say, well, how come you don't switch hands, right? Well, it's just like when you do Olympic weightlifting, right? If you do it properly, if you do a jerk, you don't jerk sometimes with the left and sometimes with the right. You don't do that. You do one side. When you golf, you don't golf from both directions. When you pitch baseball, you don't pitch with both. Well, if you're ambidextrous, you might pitch with both arms, but it's very rare, okay? So this is just one of those things. Are you gonna create an imbalance? You're not gonna create an imbalance because we can add in a lot of one-arm work that tends to balance everything out anyway. Plus, there's not that big a difference with switching those hands in that movement. So, if you have any questions, let me know. Stay strong. I'll see you next time.